Hey there, Anthony. We're gonna hang out for another couple minutes, and
It'll,
I think if no one else shows up, we might call the meeting early this week. I might have a quick discussion with you, Jan, about the uh decoupling dependencies RFC.
long time that I have looked into it, but yeah, sure.
I let
And
me
the,
let me give it like one more minute, and then
yeah, sure.
I think that what I want to do is like try and corral at this point, like the thing that's kind of befuddling me is the artifact, because we've been able to sort of get over the hump in terms of what the like structure should look like. I
Yeah.
think that we can kind of get away with using IDs for a little while and continue to skate on that for a bit. But yeah, I would like to at some point really nail down uh I'll get there, hold on. Really nail down the like because I think the artifact is the limiting factor at this point.
What do you mean with artifact?
So yeah, it's about 4 minutes past, so I feel comfortable talking about this for a little bit, and if anyone else shows up, then so be it. So the decoupled dependency RFC, part of the hope, my understanding of part of the hope of it is to allow us to sort of do what it says on the tin, which is decouple the dependencies, the actual raw dependencies that we download in a build pack from any of the build packs themselves, so that we can release a package of dependencies and release the build packs that understand how to get dependencies out of that package of dependencies. And this would allow us to do, like, sort of on the build pack side, it would allow us to sort of more accurately reflect what we're actually doing when we're updating the build packs, which is really only updating build pack um, functionality, and then providing the latest package to users. But in the same token, it sort of allows users this ability to be more selective about what packages they use. We get lots of feedback all the time that we upgrade, like, oh, I can't upgrade my app that quickly, and I don't mind using a little bit of an older version of a dependency, and I really only want to update when new, I don't know, minors come out or something like that. We get stuff, stuff like that occasionally, and
Oh,
so
you
allow
really get? Interesting.
it really is how do people use the build packs. And I think that there's obviously a very serious security contingent that is like, I want everything updated all the time, forever, automatically. And I think that that's a very real contingent, but we do get some people that are like, I don't want to have to maintain a Docker file, and this is like an easy way for me to just sort of create images. um we also have people that like want to be able to do upgrades like at a specific pace as well. So like they want to do like a quarterly upgrade just so that they can guarantee that they're, they don't want to have to worry about like having CI or something like that. And so because of that, like the artifact itself, like the actual dependency slug, for lack of a better name, needs to be something that can be independently gotten by a build pack.
Hmm.
Um, and I think the other thing that we are trying to do with this decoupled dependencies is allow people more freedom with the dependencies they download. So like let's say you're a corporate customer using Paketo, and you want to be able to use everything off of a mirror that you host, because you want something on your internal network or something like that, right? So allowing users to come up with their own pieces of like metadata to pass to the build pack that will be able to install it as if it's just a normal dependency like anything else. Um,
Hmm.
those are the two. And then I think that there's some like there's some interesting use cases. Like we sometimes get people who ask us, "Hey, is there any way I could install? Is there any way I could install like the beta dependencies or RCs or something like that?" And our official line has always been like, we don't do like packages within RCs, But maybe potentially what we could do is we could have just like a package installer or something like that, where you can define something, and you can just pass it like all of the metadata you need, and it'll just shuffle everything out and call it a day. So I guess the thing that comes down to where the difficulty comes for me is what type of artifact is that metadata? Because fundamentally we need to find a way to do it in such a way that like the build pack itself can go out and I guess fetch this artifact, right? Or and if it isn't like if it's air gapped or something like that, it can take an artifact given to it and look for parameters inside it. So I think that there's a lot of ways of doing that, but I don't know if there's a way that we want to do it. So I think the easiest thing would just be like we make a tar ball. Inside that tar ball, there's it could be literally just as simple as there is like a metadata.toml file or something like that. I don't know how much I really care, but like it could have something in it, and then at build time, if you're cool with downloading, like you would go out and download this tarball that would be in a location, or you would download the tarball ahead of time and then mount it to your image. But a tarball is just sort of like an arbitrary thing that I picked. So I guess like, do you have any strong feelings about like? I know that there was some discussion of like, oh, well, we could do something like we could make it images so that like you could pull them somehow or something like that. But then I don't know how to attach those in a sane way to our builds.
It's like I think one important aspect for the whole endeavor is, I think, to go stepwise, which we did the first step, right? But just defining how the metadata looks like is a good first step.
Yeah.
And then go stepwise and discover, right? I haven't made up my mind in full, but I can see a lot of use cases, a lot of possibilities. Even for just us, it's like, I mean, one thing that's probably you always have to take in is at least my current stance. Like, I mean, there is development in terms of Cloud Foundry supporting CNBs, and then some of the aspects also from my point of view might change. But right now, I see this as a means to produce images either locally, although I feel like developers shouldn't be forced to create images locally for their local flow. They should just be fine with working with Maven, right? If they use it and not care about images at all. But it could be locally with Pack or in CI/CD, right? So for example, I don't see a case for rebasing. I just don't see it. From my perspective. But my perspective is we have a stack with a run image with 18 packages. That's entirely different from full or from what CF currently has. I totally get the case of, wow, there's 150 dependencies and you can get them updated transparently and for free without even knowing because of API compatibility, and that this is a case. It's just, for me, it's like, well, how likely is it that the vulnerability you need to get rid of is in these 17 packages and not in the JVM itself, which you never get with a rebase? And not unless you do UBI. And probably that's even the case for UBI. Pushing that down to the run image, then you get rebase even for runtime changes. And then in CI, I can see both the case that you just mentioned with the mirror that is inside the corporate network. But I could even see more. Like, one of the build environments we have is a shared Kubernetes cluster. I could imagine that we just pre-fill a volume that can be mounted by as many build pods as they want because it's read-only mounted. And so they actually have all the dependencies already downloaded. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
So I think it's important that we see metadata and artifacts as, well, like the actual dependencies as potentially different.
Yes.
But also to be able to ship them in one go, right? Because that's other use cases where you just say, it's like, I don't want to have a very complicated thing, right? Where I, as the platform or operator or whatever, have to orchestrate that, I don't know, that metadata then show to a local so I'd actually see that But that means you need to slowly discover it while you fix on the use case. For me, the whole RFC was so far-reaching, so to say, and I mean it's already
Yeah.
out there as in an idea phase for a year or longer, that I like hesitated to completely settle on this is what I want to do with it, right? So I actually would evolve that, so to say.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think that's totally fair. I guess my question to you would be then like what do you think is step two? Uh and because I'm not sure that I
mhm.
understand what step two is.
I guess one important thing for the decoupling, I guess, is that we get the concrete stuff out of the build pack tunnel, right? Because that's what's actually tying the life cycle together, right? That would be the SHA and the very concrete URL, right? Because that's exactly one version of a JVM and
Mhm.
the SHA that belongs to that. So maybe it's really first talking about getting the metadata um, to be able to look them up instead of having them in there. Because I think that's an interesting case, right? You will actually have the freedom to do proper Zemware versioning of the build pack that is entirely independent from the versioning of the dependencies. So when there's new features for the Java build pack, then you'll have a version bump that signals there's a new feature. And I can't like I I have even problems imagining when there will be a breaking change. I guess the like we drop a dependency might be one, but I don't even know if you have to drop a dependency if you don't necessarily have to provide it in the build pack, right? It's like
It could be something like configuration, right? Like
yeah,
enabling new operating systems, setting environment variables, that sort of thing. That would be like what you would version, and then the rest would be like, yeah, it would be if you pick up or drop versions, then but that would be correctly simvered at least on that package, right?
yeah. So I think that's an interesting case, and I guess what's really needed for it is definitely to get the concretes out of the build pack tunnel and out of the build pack. And that could be as a first step to not even allow shipping artifacts in the same at the same time, right? But just actually separate them and have the data about where to fetch the stuff from separate. You could already go on and say, here's an air-gapped environment and we have a mirror and provide different metadata. That would be possible with that case, even if you couldn't already deliver artifacts for, I don't know what, as I said, like pre-filling a cache or stuff like that. You probably even could, you just had more work with it, right?
Sure. And so okay, so it sounds like what we need to do is the next concrete step is um this is what the structure for separating out the dependencies from the build pack look like and how those two things interact. So it would be, I guess, like I don't want to directly reference the RFC because I also haven't read it super
Mm.
closely as of recent. But like, there's basically just like a section that's like consuming, or like get. I don't need this dependency validation thing. I don't need all of this, but like metadata distribution. That's like the next thing to look into.
I,
Distribution and consumption.
I guess, yeah.
Okay.
And I personally would, but that's maybe arguably, but I personally would probably go for something that can start out very simple. Like I would not go on and say, here's a file system hierarchy, and now we need to tarball because we, I don't know what, need to
Oh,
wrap things together. It could be just a simple TOML file.
yeah. So
Although I always ask myself why the build pack community chose TOML, but that's a different.
I think it's what the larger cloud native computing space uses. I think that's why they
Okay.
did it. Um, uh, I also don't know why JSON would be anyway. Uh, sorry. So you're looking more for the sort of dependency metadata interface with the build pack, right? Like, given that there is metadata present, like we already understand how to parse that, but like if like if I pull in the metadata in whatever format it is, I look for some toml file and I parse it this way, and given that I am given a metadata file through some means, I parse it in a different way, and that's the priority to look at. Okay.
Yeah, but it's gut feeling and without thinking too much. But yeah, I think that's it. That would, for example, also allow you to like, I mean, the same thing is already possible with regards to mirroring, but you would have to actually tell people how they use dependency mappings to get that, right? But you could now centrally manage the dependency mapping in a sense, right? That would even be more. It's actually it has more capabilities because it wouldn't be confined to really serving just the one version that somebody else selected than any in a sense, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that would be a fair next step.
Okay. And then, what once we have like some, insert some interface, then we can try any number of implementations of delivery, and then we can come back and codify that. And then once we have that, we can be like, all right, well, now that we have a delivery method, this is like, we could even go as far as like, here is some tooling given a configuration file. We will like actually configure all of your dependencies for you in a format that allow you to be compatible with X, Y, or Z, or I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, I think the separation is the key because it allows the separate versioning then.
Yeah.
Is like I don't have many use cases like I need to stick to something or have some older stuff or whatever. Right, I didn't hear that at least for now. It might come, but then
Mm-hmm.
like I mean my my method is there always to just let them do whatever they want. We have compliance tooling that will actually tell them that, oh, that's an old version, you shouldn't use that. And then please clarify that with whoever is
Yeah.
responsible for your compliance. And you might have a good reason to do that and then discuss that, and then it's fine. And that's going to be easier, I guess, if they can still keep newer build pack versions, but stick to a dependency or the other way around or whatever.
Yeah, it
Whatever.
means you're locking down your dependencies and not your actual build pack, which means that you're not losing out on new features that are being released. Although you get into some weird compatibility issues at that point, but that's where we have to start talking about validation and that sort of thing. All
I
right.
mean, I'm anyway. I'm curious how that will how that will look like. I mean, the recommended way that I recommend people doing is actually to pin the exact version of everything, and then use renovate to get the dependencies managed.
Mm-hmm.
That way they'll have reproducible builds, right? It's like it's never going to be the case that just because we released a new version of a build pack, your pipeline suddenly starts to fail and you need to figure out if it's a change you did or our change. It's always going to be explicit. There's
Yep.
the change, right? But let's see. Well, yeah, I guess the metadata lookup is one of the first things.
For sure. All right. Well, that's great. I don't know that I have any other questions or anything like that. Great. I think that we're probably good to end this meeting a little early then. All righty. See y'all.
See you all. Thanks. Bye.